All right, welcome to another segment of Wet Your Palate. We hope you guys enjoy the podcast coming up. We talk about Sauvignon Blanc. Why it's the rage right now.
It's the fit wine.
It's the MILF fit wine.
Oh,
the cougar fit wine. Yeah.
Yeah, we go over the terms. We get down.
I also think that it is the perfect wine for the recovering White Claw drinker.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. So we touch on that. We talk, of course, about entrepreneurship.
Rebranding. We kind of know when you need to change things up a little bit. When maybe your style's gotten a little.
Things got to come from the heart. It's got to have soul.
Soul.
And I think the overarching thing here on this episode was corporate wine businesses versus family-owned wine businesses, and why the long-term vision is so different, and how that affects your drinking pleasure.
Do you write all your tasting notes?
All of them.
You.
The tasting notes. It's actually me and the rest of the winemaking team.
Yeah.
And we sit down and we it's actually more recently it's actually pretty fun.
Yeah.
We sit down. We got like Jessica in there with us, and so we'll have like all of us on the winemaking team, and then she'll just sit there and take notes, and it's just people are just throwing shit left and right, and like as you riff off of each other and like yeah I get that. It's like just go deeper and deeper, and she has these tasting notes that are like a page long and then has to consolidate them down. So it's pretty fun.
That does sound fun. Do you ever have someone say something that's like so off, and you have to have like you're just like you need to take a
you're wrong. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have them leave the room? Maybe like you're like
We just give them the silent treatment. We have a gag ball. He left it in his top drawer.
That's good.
Oh yeah,
at least they got that.
At least it's getting good use. Oh yeah, now we're rolling.
So yeah, I do all the back labels, and tasting notes with all the winemaking team. Yeah, it's cool.
Let me hear some of this.
Well, these aren't tasting notes. This is
this is like the back label.
So it's interesting because sometimes you want a lot of detail on a back label, and sometimes you don't want any, like just the legal stuff that you need, right? Yeah. So, like with the Threadcount Sauv Blanc, like we can have a little fun with it. It's like an approachable price. It's a fun wine to drink. It's something like you don't really want to think about too much, but you can if you want to. So we did do like we had a little more fun with this. Like, who calls it Sauv Blanc outside of like, their home, right? So, yes, Sauv Blanc, the famously fresh and vibrant choice that is perfect with a light lunch, a laid-back afternoon, or after any long day. With this Threadcount Sauvignon Blanc, we weave select vineyards to fuse them into a fresh style that enlivens the palate with a diverse array of flavors, aromas, and crisp acidity. But we also like changed all the like sizing and everything, so like call outs of like the words we wanted.
Did you say wee?
We weave.
Ooh, it's
like a play on we weave. It's like a play on words.
Say we weave 5 times fast.
We weave. You try it.
Okay. We weave.
You sound like a 2-stroke underwater.
Well,
but yeah, Sauv Blanc, man. It's summertime.
Oh, that's what it's talking about?
Yeah, what? No, sorry. Welcome to another episode of Go With Your Palate. Today we're going to be talking about wine,
entrepreneurship,
and whatever the fuck else. And we're starting with Sauv Blanc.
This is Joe Wagner across from me.
And this is Chris Fat Mario Rubio.
Across from him.
Across from him, yes. I now refer to myself in the third person because apparently I'm a wine titan. Well, I'm sure we're going to talk about that.
we're going to get to that, yeah.
Fuck that. I'm not very happy about that.
Oh, you're not?
Dude, don't give me a label. Don't label me. I'll label myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
not there.
Okay.
Jesus.
Do you want to talk? Let's talk about the Sauv Blanc you got here, though.
Well, first. Yeah, so Sauv Blanc. I mean, summertime, man. It's like you chill this down, just enjoy it on the front porch, whatever. Goes great with a, good array of foods, salads, seafood, anything lighter. But it's one of those wines. Like, you get home from a long day at work, right? And you're just like, I want a wine that I can just enjoy. And, like, that's why Sauv Blanc is doing so well, I think. It's not just doing well for people that are already avid wine drinkers that like a good quality product, but it also hits, I think, all the marks of moving up that ladder. Like, if you're a 22-year-old, right, and you've been drinking White Claws, because that's like been all the rage for the last fucking 5 years, like since COVID, before COVID even.
Yeah.
So like light flavors, lighter, better for you feeling, and not like not just in your face with sweetness or anything like that. And Sauv Blanc kind of hits all those marks, right? Like you got this kind of floral herbal character, some bright characters like citrus, little like melon element, but it's just smooth and drinks easy. And I think that's one of the things, like you're seeing the next generation of future wine drinkers, they're moving into Sauv Blanc as kind of their starting choice, because I think it hits all of kind of what they're used to. And then you graduate beyond Sauv Blanc and you move into maybe Chardonnay, then Pinot Noir, then Cabernet, as your palate adjusts and evolves, right? So people might call Sauvignon Blanc the next generation's white Zinfandel, which was like, or even fucking the wine cooler of now, right? I mean, the wine cooler, like Bartles and James, that shit got a lot of people into wine back in like the 80s.
But hopefully it doesn't have the same future that white Zinfandel had, right?
No.
Because it came out hard. It was, everyone's all pumped up about it, and then all of a sudden it kind of came like this like blacklisted.
Yeah, but white Zin was also a sweet blush wine, right? Like it was just kind of like your easy go-to. Anybody who didn't have a refined palate kind of was like, oh yeah, this is pleasant, I like it. And no offense to people, like, and this is actually a funny thing. When I was doing like wine events, like industry events, right? So it'd be say it's like a group of 10, and it's people from all different facets of the industry. Some people from distribution, sales, warehousing, vineyard management, whatever. And they're like, if they hand you the wine list, this is the best thing you could ever do. Because they're like, oh, this guy's a winemaker. He's going to order some good shit. And just be like, hey, can you just get like 3 bottles of white Zinfandel and put them in a brown bag? And wait to hear what everybody thinks. The surprising thing is that everybody at the table is like, wow, this is actually really good. Like, what did you order? And you pull it out, it's fucking Sutter Home White Zin. You're like, it is a decent wine. But it's like, they're looking at it like, wow, it must be high end, and that like this is all where the perception of wine comes in. So it's got a little bit of residual sugar, so they're thinking like, wow, this was like an intentional thing. It's like, no, it's mass-produced fucking pink wine. That's all it was.
Yeah.
But it got a ton of people into drinking wine.
Yeah.
I think that's what we're doing with Sauv Blanc.
And Behringer was like would you say Behringer was the leader in White Zin?
No, man, Sutter Home kicked it off.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
They were the leader. Okay, so here's the thing. White Zin is not a varietal. The variety is Zinfandel, right? All it is Zinfandel that's been pressed so you don't have the color, the pigment, because you're not fermenting on the skins. When it comes to Sauv Blanc's got so much pedigree and so much history throughout different areas of the world. But, the old world ones, you got like the Loire, you've got Bordeaux, and you move into New World, you got New Zealand. Like, you can find a good Sauv Blanc, and Sauv Blanc really carries this element of like what we call pyrazines, right? Like these kind of green characters, if you want to call it that. And so it conveys different pyrazines from different areas where it's grown. So you go down to New Zealand, you're going to get more of like this grassy character. You go to the Loire, and you're going to get something that's like a little more like what they call like cat piss, like this really high acid.
Cat piss.
And I fucking love it. Like I prefer the Loire style much more than the New Zealand style. Just personal preference. But New Zealand's fucking crushing it right now.
That's interesting too, because the cat piss element came up with Sancerre, right?
That's it. Yeah. So Loire Sancerre is that's part of the Loire Valley. There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're here.
So we tried to make like, and California's got a little more of like this floral character and like this melony thing, right? So I wanted to kind of pull back on the floral and really try to get a little more minerality and a little more of that like that Loire Sancerre character, along with a little bit of like the melony stuff and citrus. So I'm really happy with how this turned out. But we learned a shit ton for the Threadcount Sauv Blanc by starting off with our Napa Valley quilt, the Fumé Blanc, and the big differentiator for Fumé Blanc, if you see Fumé Blanc on a label, I think, did we talk about this in the past?
We might. I think we did touch on it a little bit.
We could talk about it again. It's like so Fumé Blanc, the traditional way of making a Fumé Blanc would be that it's predominantly Sauvignon Blanc. It's got a little bit of Semillon blended in, and it's barrel fermented and barrel aged for a period. So that's the big differentiator. So it's a totally different style of Sauv Blanc. Generally, like I like to have it higher acid because you're going to get some rounding characters from the barrel too, and some aging. A little bit of ML is going to go through. It's all neutral barrels, and so really kind of cut our teeth on this. Really liked how the style came out, and I was like, well, I mean that's $40 to $50 for a bottle of Napa Valley Fumé Blanc. That's not your everyday that's a high price Sauv Blanc if you're looking at it at face value.
Yeah,
you taste it, I think you'll see the difference. That's what I see at least, but I felt like in the portfolio, we didn't have this kind of like go-to everyday Sauv Blanc. And that's where Threadcount came in. Like, all right, so let's work with some vineyards from 3 different areas, blend those together, get a little more diversity and character into the blend. It's 100% Sauv Blanc. Doesn't see any oak, and it's just clean, crisp, true, fun. You know, that's it. You can think about it or don't think at all.
I like that. And it took you a while kind of to get into Sauv Blanc for Copper Cane, right? Because you have experience with Sauv Blanc through
my past
growing
life.
up in your past life. But to bring it up into the portfolio, like you just mentioned, that's recent. And so it's really exciting to see that you came out right with Fumé Blanc and
a big
Sauv
part of it was my sister makes Sauv Blanc, so I didn't want to
Okay, yes, I think
I didn't want to step on her toes, and I thought she was making a good Sauv Blanc. So once we realized we're really missing and we've done Albarino, we've done Riesling, we've done Gewürztraminer, we've done all these other kind of floral light whites, and none of them went into distribution. It's all stuff for the tasting room. They're fun, they're obscure, they're experiments that turn out well. And so when we finally got to a point of we need something like this to really, the idea of Copper Cane was if you have a chef who wants to do a wine dinner, I want to have kind of all the bases covered of the styles of wine. We don't do a sweet wine. That's the one thing we're missing. I'm not going to get into sweet wine though, but we do, a light bright white like Sauv Blanc. We've got our, all the way up the ladder to your Cougar Juice with our Quilt Chardonnay. Then you've got lighter Pinots from Oregon with Elouan. Then you get your massive Pinots like Las Alturas and Belglas. Then you move up into your big brawny reds like the Fabric of the Land Red Blend under Quilt or the Cab. So you got to kind of have all the bases covered. Yeah. So that if somebody does want to man, I'd really like to do this, this hanger steak with the chimichurri and a heavy char on the outside, black and blue, whatever. And you're well, you got to have the right wine for that. That's a little more specific.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do a Chardonnay with, pears and Gouda or something.
Yeah.
So that might be a little too much. So you want to go with something lighter. So we started doing Sauv Blanc, not stepping on Jenny's toes, somewhat in the same price category, but this wine is obviously way better than hers. So I love her, but hey, when it comes down to who's going to make a better wine, competition runs deep.
Oh my gosh, I know the competition in your family.
It
I'd
does.
I'd like to nominate our next guest, please.
I think we might have one actually. That would be good.
That would be good.
I like that. Okay.
She broke her fucking wrist the other day.
How's she doing, by the way?
She's doing good. Yeah, I saw her with her on Sunday. She, the airbag. She thinks it was the airbag. She got in a car accident. Somebody pulled out in front of her, and she just hit him.
And that was on 29, right?
Yeah, on Highway 29 going through Oakville. So
well, I'm glad she's okay.
She's doing good.
And it seems like you're not pulling back the Sauv Blanc.
No, we're
pushing.
We're pushing.
She's in the hospital, or
hey, they say never kick a man when they're down. But
they didn't say your sister.
You can get ahead a little bit faster if you do.
Oh my gosh, I like it. It's already starting. Well, and also you mentioned, so Cougar Juice, right, has been known to be a buttery chard. Right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, Sauv Blanc. What's that? Do they have? Is there a?
Is it so? Okay, well,
target on is there?
Let's look at because we've had this conversation too, with Amanda, right? Where you've got the vibe of Cougar Juice is big, bold, rich, right? And so all the tasting notes associated with it are buttery, right? It doesn't sound healthy.
Yeah.
Sauv Blanc is the opposite. And maybe this is one of the reasons for its success too, because we can't really pinpoint one exact thing.
She hit it though, yeah.
But yeah, so she hit it. So the words that are used for Sauv Blanc are light, refreshing, crisp, melon, citrus, right? All that stuff. So people are oh, it sounds healthier for you.
Grass,
it
cat
feels
piss.
Less weighty. It's like drinking a Corona light versus drinking an IPA.
Yeah.
Right? You can have the same amount of alcohol, but it's going to feel completely different, right? So I think that's one of the things about it. So I look at, if you want to call it a fit quote unquote wine, it's kind of the fit white. Without even at not these bullshit wines where people are de-alking them to hit 90 calories per serving.
That's all. Talked about that in previous.
That's all bullshit. You're just fucking up a wine. Go fuck up the wine. If you want to drink it, you're drinking fucked up wine. Yeah. Good for you.
You're taking all the magic out of it, and
that's it. So what do you have left? It's you have no sense of place. You have no passion behind it.
No soul is what you.
No soul. There's no fucking soul. It's just here's a product we're just trying to make money on, and we're tricking you into it. It's like, no, just get a real wine that's got a purpose, right?
Like I feel like if you want to get out of going to a party, like, you know, you could just stop by really quick, bring some of that wine, and then people won't care if you leave.
So you got cougars,
yes,
right, and then so this might be like the athletic MILF, right?
Ooh,
I don't know.
Okay, the athletic,
but I don't know. Are they if they're a little older? What's the age break for cougar?
Art.
is there like some sort of
I'm actually curious
analysis on this?
I feel like these words get thrown a lot, but I know there's got to be a certain age.
Why haven't we created
cougar?
like another the kilf, the cougar? I'd like to.
Oh
yeah,
I haven't heard that.
That's like the fit
kilf.
The fit cougar would be the kilf.
Okay, so this is for kilfs.
This is for kilfs. This is for kilfs. Oh, we're gonna get some shit on this one.
Are you gonna add that on the label? Oh, here we go. Gilf. Okay, yeah, that's grandma.
Yeah.
I'd like to.
Okay, hey, Art, don't get into some weird shit here. Come on, man. Jesus.
You went straight to Gilf, Art? Like we said.
Yeah. A MILF is just that you're a mother.
MILF, you're just a mom.
Yeah.
Cougars. What's the age limit? When do you become a cougar? And also, I want to know what are you before that? Is there a name before you're a cougar?
I mean.
I don't know.
I don't know. You're hot. I don't know.
A cheetah?
What is it?
Are you a cheetah?
Nah. You're a kitty cat.
40 plus.
40 plus. But some people go as low as 35 in their definition.
Huh.
With new creams and procedures available, many men and women are able to look much younger than they are. Well, dude, you lived in L.A. for a while.
Okay.
You had your moments with those fucking MILFs and cougars. Yeah.
Oh, well, thanks for that.
It's okay. I hope they taught you something. That's it.
Botox works, I guess.
Cool. Anyway, so yeah, I'd call this the fit cougar if I were to classify it as such. That type of wine.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, I mean, I don't look at myself as fit nor a cougar, and I like drinking it. So, yeah.
Sweet. Well, I mean, and it's also doing very well. I mean,
it is first release, man. I'm really happy with this. Turned out good. We needed something like this in the portfolio. I reckon we'll be bigger than my sister's brand by the end of the year. I'm kidding.
He had to say that.
I'm kidding.
Right.
We don't have enough of that.
Man.
No.
So this is out from Threadcount. You also have a red blend out from Threadcount.
Yeah.
Can we expect anything more from Threadcount?
We got the Paso Cab that just came out.
The Paso Cab, yeah.
So we got a Paso Cab in our Threadcount. So that's kind of like our, when you're like designing a product, not just, I'm talking like packaging, right? And then kind of like the whole portfolio of that actual brand, right? It's really hard to have like a single SKU brand because, I mean, you could stand for one thing and one thing alone. Tito's is a great example, right? Mm. So Tito's, highly successful, the most successful vodka company in the country. And they went through all of those years where everybody was doing fucking flavors. Like Pinnacle, the vodka brand, right? Mm-hmm. They were doing, I don't know, like 100 flavors.
Yeah.
Fucking cookies and cream and, you thought of it, they would make it. And you'd go into a liquor store and see all of these, and you're like, are you kidding me? Like, who needs this many options? Tito's never did a single goddamn flavor. Just stuck to their guns, same looking package, a couple different pack sizes. That was it. It's not every day you can create a brand that's just that simple and that focused. That was like laser fucking focused. So when I look at a brand, it's like, yeah, there's always going to be a lead, right? And so like Quilt, the lead is Cabernet. We know that it's Cabernet. We know that we kind of built that brand around the Cabernet. But then you also want to have some kind of laterals that people can go out on. It's like, well, I like the brand of Quilt Cabernet, and I see they got a Chardonnay, and I feel like a Chardonnay tonight. I'm having salmon, whatever. So I'm going to try that, and they try it, and like it, and whatever else. So you got to have like a little bit of like room to play in the brand. And so when we first launched Threadcount, we launched it with a red blend, and that was really intended just to be a wine that would accommodate a broad array of palates. And the way that we blended it was different than how we've done it, like our winemaking team, where typically we'd be kind of in a vacuum, and we'd blend and taste and say like, all right, well, are we here? Do we like this? And we're like, yeah, this is the blend. Let's bottle it. And then that was it. With this, we brought in kind of like a whole group of people to taste and get their ideas. And so it was everybody from like your 60, 65-year-old a very knowledgeable wine consumer down to your, recovering White Claw drinker, right? So like we wanted our blend to be the number 1 or 2 spot for every single person in that room of like 20 plus people. And so we did a series of these tastings, and we included 3 of our blends. It was all blind, and then the top 10 red blends against it. So everybody was tasting blind, and after a series of these tastings, we finally got down to one blend that like the dude who loves like first growths liked, and then the person who like is like, I don't know anything about wine, liked. And so that's how we started that. It was the first time we ever done that, but it was really kind of like, I wanted to have a wine brand that was going to be your everyday wine. And I have confidence that we can make a luxury wine that hits all those bells and whistles for like a $20 price point. And so that was the goal. I think we achieved it. And so that was the lead off. And then we started looking at like, okay, well, we do need some other options here to kind of make this whole, this little sandbox like a bigger place to play. And we've been experimenting with Paso Cab for a while, experimenting with Sauvignon Blanc for a while, and so finally brought those 2 into fruition, and it fit perfectly into the Threadcount brand.
Yeah.
So it's fun. I mean, we do all of our packaging, all of our shit. I mean, Threadcount, we call it Threadcount by Quilt because it's kind of the like you're not going to spend $50. Not everybody is going to spend $50 every time they want a bottle of wine. That's expensive. That's even expensive. Like I don't do that. Right? I mean, I love to have like nice wines, but like if we're just looking for a front porch pounder, it's like I'm not going to open a fucking, $120 bottle of wine. So just knowing kind of like human nature and getting more people into wine. So that's kind of what we were able to facilitate with this brand to be kind of your everyday level of luxury wine. And I think we were able to do it. And being associated with Quilt, so it does give us the ability to get a starting point for like that, let's call it a pricing ladder. So if you're drinking at a $12 to $15 price point right now, you're buying it off the shelf at $12 to $15. I believe you go to 20, you're going to taste the difference, and you're not going to want to go backwards. Right? So you're like, okay, I get this. This is good. This is not bulk wine. It's like purpose-made wine. It's got a story. It's got a soul. It's got all that, right? And then you get acquainted with the brand, and then you're like, I really like those Threadcount wines. Now I want to move up, and it's like, okay, now I'm going to jump up to a $35 bottle of Paso Cab. Like, cool. Then you're going to be like, wow, I actually really fucking like Cabernet, and Paso's a pretty good area. Like, and then maybe you're going to explore that region and that varietal for a little while, and then maybe you're like, what? Now it's date night, and I'm going to buy a bottle of Quilt Napa Valley Cabernet. And you try that, and you see the elevation, right? That's not to say that like something double the price is double the quality, but there's a point when you reach, a point of diminishing returns, right? Mm-hmm. So let's say you've got a wine that you're going to rate as a 95-point wine. You love this Cabernet, right? And it costs you $50. Then you're like, I really want to try this Screaming Eagle or this Harlan Estate or whatever. And so you're going to be like, well, $50 for a 95-point wine, and you might taste that Harlan and be like, that's a 96, 97 for me. But is it really worth $700 to get those extra 1 or 2 points? That's when the big swinging dick comes out. And that's when that's just a power play. You get those bottles, those things are like crown jewels. Those are as much a prized possession, not just to show off in your cellar, but also to bring to a place. That's not meant for drinking. That's meant to fucking, show your big swinging dick.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're trying to impress.
It's like a status
Yeah,
symbol.
so I've never really liked to fall into that stuff. Like, I like trying those wines, but like people ask me like, why don't you make like some real small production thing at like $500 a bottle? And it's like, well, I actually want to make wines people drink. Simple.
Well, yeah, well said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you want to collect wines, we got those too. But
and I think it's cool. You brought up a good point when it comes to entrepreneurship. I think with business is you have a brand that has already built trust, Quilt, and then you can bring in this new brand, Threadcount by Quilt.
Yeah.
And so then people that are unfamiliar with it, right? They're picking up, they're taking a look. Oh, what's this? But then they can connect just by that simple recommendation, right?
Yeah, that's
like,
what it is, right? You got it on the bottom of the label. It's just a little call out saying like, hey, if you like that wine, you'll probably like this wine.
Yeah.
And so it works. I mean, there's always the question of like cannibalization, right? Which is a real thing. So, if by saying like, well, coming out with a Threadcount by Quilt Paso Robles cab, are you going to be taking business from Napa Valley Quilt Cabernet?
Yeah. And
that's something you always got to ask yourself. And if you're like, no, the price points are too different, the styles are completely noticeably different, and there's a reason for being for both of them. So we haven't seen any cannibalization. But like, I mean, I've seen cannibalization in the past. It's like that's not a cool thing to go through. Where you're like, wow, we just
in the you've seen it in the past with wine.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Just had to clarify. I only know it.
I was down in these remote islands in the Indian Ocean and got to see it firsthand. Eating toes. It's gross.
Asserting dominance.
So you see, like, you talk about brand cannibalization where you have like, you come in with something to be more mainstream, to be more volumetric, to be, broader, more broadly distributed.
Yeah.
But then you always run the risk of people going straight to that and totally forgetting about whatever it was you were doing before, that higher end, right? That's an easy thing. Consumers want to make that move because it's like, well, I got the same thing. We have the same thing, right? You got Bell Gloss, and then you got your Bowen by Bell Gloss. So Bowen, our Tri-County Pinot Noir, like, it delivers, I don't know, call it 85, 90% of like that level of style and quality that Bell Gloss is known for, but it's half the price. It's still like moving up to that Bell Gloss price point and seeing that you're getting a reflection of that place and time much more definitively. That means something to somebody. And so you're not seeing cannibalization there. You're just seeing a personal preference in that moment in time of like, I want something that's truly luxury. I want something that's going to be an experience. I'm going Bell Gloss. Or it's fucking Tuesday night. We're watching a movie. Let's buy Bowen.
Yeah. Or those people that miss the old Mayomi.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe if they want to go back to, 2006?
You go back to like, dude, I can go back to 08, 09, 10.
08,
those were the solid years, and then it just got fucking out of hand. It was crazy. It was like, it was not easy to make that wine at the level we were making it, and you taste it now, and it's just totally different.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm talking about, when it had soul.
When it had soul. There's somebody behind it.
So, and how some people in fashion, they're like the old Chanel. Well, hey, go to Bowen. And you might get some of that if you have nostalgia. So
with that run, that was like the first time that in my career that I had seen a brand really kind of transcend a category and really became kind of a lifestyle.
Yeah.
Like it was part of a lifestyle. And you could feel it, like with customers out there and the way people talked about it. And there was so much discovery of it still. And it was like, and we're seeing that now with a bunch of the brands that we have within Copper Cane, which is great. But it's like, you could say, this is the fit cougars that like this. Like, I mean, you'll start to see these like veins go out, and some of them are more geared. Not the wines aren't geared towards it, but just the consumers naturally evolve or go to it, and they're going to be younger, they're going to be older, they're going to be female, they're going to be male, they're going to be whatever. Not to put labels on people, but it's like you don't know where they're going to go, but then you find out as you release it and see what draws people, because every time you get like a think tank together is what I can't stand about like big corporate America kind of wineries, right? They'll do these think tanks and they'll analyze everything and they'll come up with a package and a style and a name and the marketing behind it and all this shit, and it's just all fabricated.
It's not a genuine story.
And it's just like, and they all start. I remember we had one person, not gonna mention any names, that came from one of those companies, and we were talking about, like, we're just launching, like, I think it was Elouan at the time. And they're like, what's our target demo? And we're like, what the fuck are you talking about?
It's like, he's coming in with some marketing jargon? Sounds like a Monday's problem.
And so you're like, you really want to look at the demographics. Like, well, they're like, well, we think it's 60% female, 40% male. We think that the age range is 37 to 48. And you're like, look, dude, I don't give a shit. Like, we're not putting fucking billboards up and doing Super Bowl ads. Like, at that level, maybe you do want to try to target the correct audience. Unlike Bud Light, they kind of that one up. Like, target your audience. Like, when you're at that level, you can figure out what your market is, right? In wine, it's like anybody who's willing to take a sip and try it, anybody who's willing to buy that bottle off the shelf, like that's your target market. And hopefully they like it and they support you, want to buy more.
Yeah.
That's the simple philosophy. So that person didn't last long.
I mean, you told them straight. Right?
What's our target demo?
You're like, our target demo is, it's your last day.
Get your shit and get the f*** out of here.
I feel like you're taking on the persona of it, the boiler room.
Oh, the boiler room. Yeah.
Yeah, Ben Affleck.
Sales team has no idea what's coming to him.
Yeah. We might have to cut that because I don't want to give it away. This will probably play after.
There's no such thing as a no sales call. Every fucking call is a sale. Either you sell him a case of wine or he sells you on a reason he can't. But there is a sale. Anyways, yeah, that's my interpretation of it.
I love it. But you mentioned Elouan, and so I also want to talk about in regards to branding, that sometimes there will be where brands rebrand.
Yeah.
And so you had kind of that element with Elouan. So I'm actually just going to reach back. For those that can't see, I'm bringing up a bottle of the new Elouan labeling.
So this is like a good example. Elouan is like, the question would be, if it's not broke, why fix it, right? Mm-hmm. Elouan has been doing great. It's growing the category of Oregon. It's growing the Pinot Noir category. We also do the Chardonnay and the Rosé, but like Pinot is the far and away focus and lead for Elouan, right? So we were looking at the packaging. I was like, it's just not telling a story. Like, I loved the package. It was this Art Deco. I've always loved Art Deco, not just artwork, architecture, everything. But it was this very Art Deco label, just this vertically oriented label. But it didn't tell the story of what Elouan meant. And so I was kind of like, how do we really convey the meaning of the word through the packaging and the ideology of the brand? Elouan means good light. So it's like, all right, well, how do we convey sun rays? And the augmented amount of sunlight you have as you move up in the northern latitudes. So compared to down here, you're looking at like 45 minutes more at summer solstice, and that has a profound impact on ripeness and photosynthesis because you're in a cooler environment with more daylight hours than you are here in California. So fundamentally showcasing kind of like we've got Bowen, or like the Bowen by Belgloss Pinot Noir, right? That's California. It's coastal grown, solid wine. Now, how do we differentiate that from something like Elouan? And how do we tell a story? Because Elouan is a very different style of Pinot Noir because of where it's grown, which is in the coastal foothills of Oregon. So Elouan meaning good light. I wanted to convey that through the package. So we did this screen print. We went through this. Took like a year to kind of like mess around with, but we wanted to show the rolling hills of Oregon's coastal range and then showing the sunlight coming over the top. I finally came up with this package to tell the story a bit. And so you try to always do that. Like, we're not putting big advertisements out there, right? So it's not like we can't tell the story. Like take advertising like Parliament. This is always a good one to go to. Parliament cigarettes, right? Mm-hmm. I don't even know if they advertise anymore, but
P-Funks.
The P-Funks. I've got an indelible mark in my mind about those ads because it was fucking blue seas and white walls and some dude and a woman in white. Like, that was it. Mm-hmm. Consistent every time.
Yeah.
And consistency is always key in advertising. But we're not able to do something like that, right? So now how do we at least tell the story through the packaging and get somebody's curiosity out, right? And so that's what we did with Elouan. So that was a repackage. So if it ain't broke, why fix it? Well, we're not fixing it. I think we're increasing the value of the perception of it. And so the wine style is the same. We did no changes on that stuff. So it really is just kind of like an increase in the aesthetics. And I think that over time, of course, you have to expect what would be called you could call it like a J curve, right? So you think like you're moving along, you're growing and everything, and then you're like, we're going to make this change. And it might hurt a little bit, but it's going to be going down a little bit, but it's going to come back up. Because every time you make a change that's that drastic, your core customer is not going to be able to find the wine. They're going to be looking for the same package, the same cues, the same colors, whatever. And so if you completely change it like we did with Elouan, you have to expect that there's going to be a little bit of a lull between that change hitting the market and then actually getting back up and growing. But at some point, you got to shit or get off the pot, and you make a decision, and you're like, we're doing it with this vintage, and we're all in. And I mean, within a couple months, of course, you have the sales guys and girls saying like, I don't know about the package change. It seems like it's, confusing to people. And it's like, you guys got to hold on to the ride, man, to keep on pushing out there. Keep telling people it's what the story is. And it will grow up bigger than it would have grown with just the same package.
Yeah.
So that's my philosophy on it.
Allow me to reintroduce myself.
Yeah, that's it. Allow me to reintroduce myself. Again, wanting like a balanced portfolio. So I want to be thoughtful about what we're putting out there. I don't want to just like fucking broadcast a bunch of wines out there. So be focused on what we're doing and do it right. And so we start small on the whites. And we kind of keep it small, keep it focused, and be very pragmatic and picky about where we put these things, right? So it's not like, blanket the world with Sauvignon Blanc. It's like, no, let's pick the right areas and release it in those areas and kind of see how it does. Like, you got to take it slow. The big company. This is one thing I love to see. Everybody wants to jump into retail. Like retail, your margins are higher typically if you're not going in the on-premise. You generally have some sort of like discounting for the on-premise so that the restaurant can make a little bit of a higher margin, and that they're making most of their money off alcohol, right? So you want to be a good partner with your restaurants. So that comes in the form of like some sort of lower price, whatever it is. So the big companies, they don't have the patience. They're like, we're going to launch this brand and we're going to it's going everywhere, all retail. Like there was one, and they were a total knockoff of, so Joel Gott, that's a brand. That's an established brand, yes. Good wines, good pricing. All like he's done a great job. So one of these large companies came out with a brand looking almost identical visually to Joel Gott. They called it Tom Gore. He's an actual person.
Like Joel Gott.
But he's a vineyard manager.
Oh.
But they like hired him to be the front man for this brand. And so it was all just in the advertising. So videos of him talking and everything, kind of like salt of the earth, all this stuff, but it was all a hoax. I saw this shit at every grocery store, every major retail chain that you could imagine for like 6 months, floor stacked, fucking 50 cases.
Like, do you mind, who's behind this though?
Constellation.
Okay, thank you.
So everywhere, and I'm like, holy shit, these guys hit it running, man. They're going, and this is gonna be a big brand. Within 12 months, the brand's fucking gone because they didn't take the time to develop that relationship between future potential customers and the wine. The place to do that is with food in a restaurant setting. Like you need trial. Like you can't just advertise your way to success. You gotta have people, like, if it's a product, a consumable product, the only way to win is to have them try it. The likelihood of them just pulling a random ass bottle they've never heard of off of a shelf and being like, wow, I'm gonna love this, is like fucking tiny. So you can fill the pipeline, and then what happens? It doesn't move, so then the retailers are like, the shit's not moving, we're going to discount it, and then we're going to discontinue it because it's not making money for us now that we've discounted it. So these guys are always shooting themselves in the foot, all because they're looking for the quick buck. Yeah. And they're looking to show their shareholders. Publicly traded companies don't do well in the wine business, but we see more and more of them going that way. Here's another example, and Diageo, they're a spirits company, right? They were in wine for a while, but that was a tiny bit of their portfolio. But it was fucking huge in comparison to like everybody else in the wine business. So, I always thought like, wow, this guy's like controlling all these massive brands. Like, dude, he must be the shit. And then you realize their wine business, they got rid of it, but their wine business was 3% of Diageo's portfolio. So when that dude walks into whatever board meetings they got, he's the small fry compared to all the guys that are running the spirits side of it, right?
Yeah.
So eventually, because the ups and downs of agriculture, you're not just buying grain and you're not just buying booze or whatever. You're actually making it, and so you have a couple down years from a growing standpoint. Your margins erode, whatever. Then they're going to be like, well, why the fuck are we doing wine? And they'll get out. Nestle got out, right? They had Behringer. They sold Treasury, so Diageo got out of it. And what they did was they sold all of their real estate, or almost all the real estate, to a REIT, which is a real estate investment trust. That REIT went ahead and leased it to other companies, leased these vineyards and wineries to other companies. And then Diageo sold the brands that were affiliated with these wineries to other companies.
Whoa.
So now you have a really fucked up situation where you got a REIT that's going to tie that land up for probably 40 to 60 years, because that's what real estate investment trusts do, right? They're taking, institutional money, whatever it is, and they're investing it in real estate that is going to most likely increase by whatever percentage and draw a return over time for whatever, that's kind of what they do. That land is now tied up in a real estate investment trust. The brand is now taken away from the land where it was born and fostered, and is now just a part of another big publicly traded company, and they're just filling it with bulk wine and riding on the coattails of what that brand used to be.
Yeah.
So what happens at the end of the day? Those brands end up just getting sold for pennies on the dollar after these companies have squeezed every bit of money out of them that they can. And then they become your bottom shelf shit. Clos du Bois is a good example. That used to be like a top-end wine. Now it's fucking like, I think they're thinking about like selling that fucking brand probably to a very low-cost bulk wine producer that's just going to put it bottom shelf. It's like we're, like $2 Chuck.
This is never communicated to the consumers either.
No, they don't. No, consumers don't ever see it.
And
there's a whole dirty side to the business.
And
it's not dirty. It's just,
well,
it's just fucked up. Like it's
shady.
It's an agricultural,
dirty, shady.
But you can do that in any business, right?
Yes.
If you're operating for only profit, you're going to make those decisions. If you're operating for integrity and long-term success and fostering a brand over generations, like a family business, you're going to be making very different decisions. Yeah. And I think that may be the core of what people don't see, or that they don't, maybe we don't convey it as an industry enough. Or maybe the reason we can't convey it is because the family-owned and operated companies don't have the marketing funds that the big guys do, and the big guys aren't going to talk about it. Like, how many people can I touch? It's not that many. I mean, in a year.
I mean, if you really put your mind to it and started running around here, you could touch a lot of people.
Get arrested. But no, so this podcast, if there were
just ask
if there were 100,000 people listening to this podcast, then yeah, maybe we make an impact. But you're not, there's that disconnect. If you had 1,000 salespeople running around the country being able to tell that story,
yeah,
then people would get it. And then you'd have people like the Angry Somm that would actually, go after the people that aren't trying to make legit wines and actually grow grapes and shit like that. They'd be like, oh wait, these are the true fake wines out there. This is just fucking, hey, I need another 100,000 cases of XYZ. And instead of no, we're actually putting blood, sweat, and tears into shit. Yeah.
Well,
so fuck you, Angry Somm. I want you to come on this podcast.
Yeah, you've been called out so many times. We're going to keep calling out.
I'll dip your ass in a vat of wax.
Dude, we're about to do a hit 'em up track. If you watch it, we have a studio, so we will lay the track.
Yeah, we will. All I need is a beat, man, and we'll give you a beat down.
We are touching people though with Go With Your Palate. I just read a message from someone from New Zealand that had a lot of nice things to say. I mean, I should start bringing some of these messages out here so you can see. But
you don't share that shit with me.
Well, I do, but you just don't answer back.
You want to treat me like a mushroom, huh?
What?
Put me in a dark room and feed me shit.
I mean,
that's it. Yeah.
Shut your mouth when you're talking to me.
All right, my line.
But David, this is really good right now because you've been talking about. First of all, it's great to hear you speak so freely and candid. And that's what I like about this podcast, is because a lot of times when we're talking about, should I say, the big guys, all right, and we all kind of know them in the industry, and you've actually said nice things to say about Gallo and how they kind of lead the charge, and they're there in the forefront. They're the first ones that are going to be. Taking on the new laws, bills, things are coming.
Defending the industry.
Yes, defending the industry. Thank you. And so, yes, there's a lot of good that comes out of it. And I would consider Constellation in there, Treasury. These are the big guns, right? But then what you're also talking to too is that there's some that don't. I don't want to single them out, but right now you're talking about taking brands and then just sucking the life out of them.
That's what they do.
And then just leave them trash. And then what I'm saying is, and you're right, it's legal. They don't have to communicate it to the consumer. But what's interesting is what I've gotten is being at a lot of events, and you can just see how many people are not informed. And then you're constantly trying to do your part in informing them about if a brand has changed. It's it's not the same juice in the bottle. And I'm talking right now about, my example is Mayomi, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not yours anymore. It's been Constellation since 2014.
2015, yeah.
2015, thank you. And so, and you kind of have to explain to people the story and the soul that had is all true, but is now gone because they have sucked it out. So that's not
And
even...
so it takes time, right?
Yes.
So it takes time to suck that soul out.
Yes.
By just continuing to cost engineer. You're pulling costs out left and right, right? You start with the easy stuff, and then it's like, then it gets down to the shit of like lightweight glass, paper label or paper
How can we
stock
save
for your
some money?
labels,
Yeah.
like every little detail, and then all of a sudden it's like you're left with a brand name and nothing that's familiar about the brand, and so that happens. And I'm not singling out Meiomi on this. This happens to like a ton of brands, right?
Yeah.
What's going to be really interesting to watch? So we call it squeezing copper, right?
Yeah.
So you're going from like, what is your cost of goods? Like maybe your cost of goods is $100 a case. And they could probably get that down to 60 a case, 50 a case. And then they de-appellate it, right? So then you move from maybe a nice appellation like, say, it's Napa Valley to a California, and they try to stay at the same price. And you end up, like, you're gonna knock some consumers off there. They're going to be like, oh, fuck, they're trying to screw me. They're trying to charge me $50 for this Napa Valley Red when, this is probably worth 10, right? So some people will see that, and slowly it'll erode, and slowly that brand will become like nothing, and then they're just going to sell off the remnants of it. But all the while, those 10, 15 years that they owned that brand and ran it to the ground, they made a bunch of money.
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
That's all that matters, is they made their profit.
What I'm really interested to see, and I can talk a little openly about this because it's all just hypothesis, right? I'm not like I don't know anything about behind the lines of what's going on with this company, but Duckhorn.
Yes.
So Duckhorn they were a great Napa house, right? They were fucking Duckhorn Merlot was like the creme de la creme of Merlot for years, and especially during like that wave. But they always made great wines. They did Golden Eyes. They're doing awesome Pinots. And then they started like changing. They got some investors, whatever else, and now it's a publicly traded company. So they went that route. That's a route you can go. That was actually something that was brought up to me when we first started having conversations with Constellation about selling Meiomi. Like one of the guys advising me was like, you could take this another route and bring it public. And I was like, fuck that doesn't work in this business. And then what? Then you answer to a bunch of shareholders? Like, then they're telling me what to do? Like, no, I'm fiercely independent. So,
oh, yeah.
And so anyway, so they went public, and they're still like known for quality, and they've got a whole range of wines now. They've been growing like crazy, and they still have some really good wines. Like I'm not bagging on them at all, but you just watch over the next 10 years. There are going to be some decisions made that are going to erode that brand, and there are going to be new SKUs added because you always need to grow when you're publicly traded. You always need to acquire another brand. You always got to add something into the mix. You always got to like be growing. Have an incubation brand that grows into a monster, because the shareholders are expecting a return on their investment. And you're not expecting to have shareholders. They're not gonna weather these big ups and downs like you typically have in with a product that is really based in agriculture. So that's it. I'm done. I don't know. This is probably the most boring podcast we've had. I don't know. Some entrepreneur out there is gonna be like, "Oh, that was cool stuff," but like everybody else will be like, "Dude, Joe, number one, you sound like you're sick. Dude, what the fuck are you talking about?"
Are you kidding me? You're talking about the big titans of the business, and I'm surprised if you don't get a hit on you. But that kind of brings me to the point that maybe it's because aren't you a titan now? I mean,
don't even no. I've been called a couple things. And I'm always just like, I'm baffled, dude. I fucking hate it. That article came out, right? There's this article for anybody listening, and they referred to me as a wine titan.
Yeah.
Right? Is that what it was?
Are you ready to get into this or what?
No, if this is what we're getting into, this is the last thing, because Art's already like, he's got to fucking go cook dinner for his wife or something.
That's right, man. It was my turn to cook, but let's roll with it.
What are you doing? You doing tacos again?
So we're just rolling.
Tacos with Belglass, baby.
Fuck yeah. We're going to have to, sorry guys, you got to wait till gotta wait till the next episode.
Sorry.
Just chill.
Oh,
to
what
the
a
next
cliffhanger.
episode.
Stay tuned. Joe was called the Titan.
Peace. We're out. More on the fucking name calling of me coming up.
Sports and wine.
Is this really the end? Unbelievable. Find out next week